Good morning, all. This has just gone 10 o'clock. So first of all, thank you for joining and good morning and welcome along to Crimson's bi-monthly Ask the Experts webinar. My name is Luke and I'll be hosting this session today. First of all, thank you again for joining. It's great to see so many clients and prospects that are able to join what's now our second Ask the Experts session. As we're all aware, Microsoft is a constantly evolving set of platforms and solutions, and really simply, it's Crimson's job, or the staff of Crimson's job, to keep up to speed with all of this change. And this session provides us with an opportunity to share what is new, what has changed, and what we believe is exciting across the Microsoft ecosystem. The agenda for today will be broken down into 4 component parts aligned to the Crimson Solutions cloud practices. We've got Dynamics 365, Azure, Power Platform, and Microsoft 365. And each session will be broken down into 10-minute chunks. And I've got the responsibility of making sure that everybody keeps to those times. Otherwise, they'll be getting a stern finger from me during and after the session. There will be a Q&A at the end. However, please feel free to ask any sort of on-topic questions during the presentations, just if you just raise your hand or comment in the chat box. But first of all, I'll just give a very brief overview for anybody that's not already aware, just a very brief overview of Crimson, what we do and how we help our customers. So in a nutshell, Crimson helps organisations unite people, process and technology. We work with organisations to help them get the most out of their investment in Microsoft technology, helping them to solve their most complex business challenges. We help organisations across their full journey from inception and requirements gathering through the implementation, then into BAU, support and adoption. We're a Microsoft Gold partner across a number of different competencies, and the IT services we provide can really be broken down into 4 key areas of resourcing services, specialist IT consultancy, cloud services and managed services. Recently rebranded from Harvey Nash, Crimson became part of the Nash Square Group 5 years ago, to this month, in fact. So it was back in 2017, October 2017. So that time's definitely flown by for everybody that was at Crimson that was still around then. But you will know Nash Squared as a global skills and talent organisation, and what they have brought to Crimson is a significant level of investment in everything we do. Which is great for all of you, our customers and our prospects. And what it means is we can offer more time and more of our consultants' time to explore how Microsoft solutions can help. As you can see on the screen, the obligatory badge of who we deal with, but the Crimson deal with a whole host of different organisations, a whole host of different shapes and sizes, and from a number of different sector backgrounds. What this means is we are able to share stories and interesting use cases across different sectors. So straight over to meet the team then of who you're going to be hearing from today. We've got Adam, who's going to be delving into everything Dynamics 365. Steve Banner, who is always wearing his Azure hat, and we can't take it off him. Ollie for updates around the Power Platform, and then Kieran for investigating the world of Microsoft 365, which does overlap a little bit with the Power Platform, but that's just the nature of Microsoft. Everything's integrated everywhere. So I'm going to hand over to Adam first of all, who will be conducting, I believe will be conducting a live demo. So I'll stop sharing. Over to you, Adam.
Thank you very much, Luke. I'll take the screen from you now. So as Luke mentioned, I'll be doing a very brief, very quick demo on Omnichannel. So Omnichannel is one of the many Dynamics 365 apps that Microsoft make available to you. And as the name probably suggests, it's all about combining your multiple channels, such as text messaging, Facebook, Twitter, live chat, and many others, all into one application that your agents can easily use and deal with all the incoming requests and conversations all from one place. So rather than having to manually manage each of them independently, each of those channels independently, it's all done through one app with the same UI, the same features, and it all does work quite well, to be fair. It all does link up very nicely indeed. So what you're seeing in front of you now is Omnichannel. So this is the Omnichannel for Customer Service app. Again, access the same way you access any other Dynamics 365 app. This tab that we have got open at the moment just shows us the work items I'm currently working on. So that is any of the conversations that I am currently engaged in and that I'm assigned to. We have in the middle here, if say, for example, we had it set up so it was a pull functionality where your agents pull from all the available pool of conversations that are waiting to be dealt with. I could pick and choose from the box in the middle. And then on the right hand side, we have any of the work items that I've recently closed if I want to go back in and maybe modify something in there or just take a look at it. In the middle tab, we have a list of all the ongoing conversations. So this is good if, say, you're a supervisor. It gives you a really good 360-degree view of any of the conversations that are currently going on. And you can go in and you can monitor, or you can even take over if you need to be. And it does break down by channel, give you a bit of information about maybe the sentiment that's going on. So if you can see one that is quite negative, the supervisor might want to take a look at that and see what's going on. And you can also sort it by the different queues that you have set up. And then finally, we have an out-of-the-box Power BI dashboard. So forgive me for the data, this is a demo environment, so the data is not going to look very real world, but just a very good example of some of the out-of-the-box analytics that come with Omnichannel, such as your average handle time, the conversation status for each currently active conversations, by each queue, the escalation rate, etc. And these are out of the box, and they do provide a really good 360-degree view of everything that is going on within Omnichannel. And we also have a couple more dashboards here as well. So let's move on to actually seeing what this looks like, both from the agent's point of view when they're in a conversation, as well as the person on the other side, be it a customer or a student, etc., whatever your industry is in. So we're going to hop over to just the generic Dynamics 365 portal to show you the live chat channel. Obviously, this is a Dynamics 365 portal, but this live chat can be put on any website that you've got. It's simply just I think it's 2 or 3 lines of code that you just pop onto your website, and that allows this chat box in the bottom right to appear. So at the moment, because it's our demo environment, we have a virtual agent pop in first of all, rather than going straight to a live human agent. So what this helps with is rather than every single question going straight to a human agent that they have to deal with, the virtual agent is set up with various topics and various knowledge bases to hopefully deflect some of the easier to answer questions and allow the virtual agent to answer them rather than sending all of those basic and simple questions to a live agent, which obviously takes up time and resources. So you can see here we have the virtual agent of identifying itself as a virtual agent, etc., and saying that if I do want to speak to a human, I can ask at any time. But for this example, I might be renting a property from you, and I actually need a repair. And rather than calling up and asking for it, I can simply ask in the chat here. So I need a repair. And we currently have this set up around COVID-19. So you can see the virtual agent has come back. It's identified the topic that I'm talking about, the topic I'm asking a question about, and it's given me a little bit of information about how we're only doing emergency repairs at the moment, and what that constitutes, and whether I believe my repair does fall under an emergency. So what we're going to do is we are going to say, yes, it is an emergency. I can either press the button here or I can type in the chat, but I will just press the button. So this is a really simple conversation purely because of time, but it's really good to show you that I can actually now the bot has recognized I'm at a certain point and I've said that it is an emergency, perhaps now is a good time to transfer to a real human agent who can then go on and deal with this properly. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to say, yes, please transfer me. And what that is going to do is going to come back with saying, okay, I'm going to transfer you now, and an agent will be with me in a moment. And now if I swap hats and go over to Omnichannel as an agent, if we give it a second, a chat request will come in. You can see there we have a chat request. And because I am not logged in as a user on the portal, and we've not done any verification going forward, it's just saying I'm visitor 2. But if I've logged in on that portal, or if I'd done, say, a pre-chat survey, there going to be some details about who I am, this would actually pop up saying who I am if I'm already a contact in Dynamics 365. So what I can do is I can open that. And you can see here, it brings us to the conversation customer summary screen. So you can see it gives me a history of what the virtual agent and the chatter have been talking about. So that gives me a really quick view of maybe what the conversation is about and helps me to sort of catch up and see what's going on. And you can see we've got to the point where it's transferred and we are now talking to that chatter. So if I say hello there and we pop over, we can see that we are actually live chatting to them. So what we can do because I wasn't logged in and it's not identified someone, I can actually go in here and identify, okay, this is Alex, so I know that. You could have a pre-chat survey that gives me some details, help me identify that, or you could simply gather that information from the chat. And what that does is that has now linked this conversation to Alex Simmons. And if I go into his record in Dynamics 365, you can see that we have all of our previous interactions here. So again, because of time, I can't go into too much about this whole screen, but you can see you do have some features that you would expect from a live chat system. We have some quick replies that have dynamic data. Say, for example, here it will input my first name for me. These are some of the out-of-the-box ones, but you can make your own quick replies very easily. So I can just simply send that through. I can see there it's updated with my name. You also can transfer this or consult to other agents. I'm the only one on at the moment, so it's not showing anyone else, but I can search for an agent and consult with them. Or the next button over is actually to transfer this to either a queue or an actual agent. We can then also take notes if we want to, and that is added to the Dynamics 365 record. And we can also link to knowledge bases as well, if we had the customer record properly linked, etc. So that's an example of one of the live chat channels. And if you can see on the left-hand side here, we have our two currently open conversations. So we have Alex and we have Alison. So you'll notice that this is, if we have a look at the engagement channel here, this is live chat. But simply by swapping over and just clicking this here, we have actually swapped over to Facebook. So it's all done, all through the same app, all through the same functionality. Everything looks exactly the same, but you can have it across multiple channels. So again, Twitter, WhatsApp, SMS, live chat, email, etc. That all comes through Omnichannel and is really easy to use. And if I quickly just show you the Facebook page that we've got, we can see that I can then just go in here and type as I normally would using the Facebook Messenger. And if I pop back over, we can see that I think we've timed out. I've actually timed out. Oh no, there we go. You can see that it all works exactly the same way, and we can then just carry on the conversation from there. So again, that's just a really quick overview. There's loads more to Omnichannel, but because of time, I didn't want to go into too much detail. But it's just a really good example of how Omnichannel can take all of those various channels all into one place and allow you to link it to Dynamics 365 and their contact records, and then create various records off the back of each conversation, such as a case or a quick inquiry, etc. But I think I'm coming up to my time now, so I will pass back over to you, Luke.
Fantastic. Thank you very much, Adam. And that was a really seamless demo compared to from about 3 or 4 different angles that you're coming at from then. So fair play to you. And it was good to see. So everyone's been in those web chat environments, and can I actually talk to someone, please? Like
Yeah.
everyone's always been curious. Does that actually mean I'm going to talk to someone? So I think everyone's always been curious what actually happens on the back end. So it's good to see that a human has to interact there somewhere.
There you go.
Fantastic. Just a bit of a recap. We are ahead of time. Mostly from my doing. I've steamrolled it through the Crimson overview. And I'll be handing over right now to Steve for everything around Azure. So Steve will be running through pieces of Azure. I don't believe we'll be doing a live demo, so I'll be continuing to share my screen. And over to you, Steve.
Thank you, Luke. The first slide. Brilliant. So we've got about 10 minutes so just to look at some of the updates since the last bi-monthly update in Azure world, more kind of infrastructure biased, I suppose. One of the challenges when we do these types of presentations is sometimes, because Azure world is a little bit more technical, there's not so much functional stuff to show. So we've got a couple of slides. But what I do think is Azure world wins on cool naming. Because last time we looked at Azure Chaos, and we're starting with Azure Space this time. So Azure Space, a reminder really that lots of Azure work is obviously cloud-based and deployment of workloads to cloud and securing in cloud. So there's a heavy focus on that quite rightly. But Microsoft are putting a lot of effort into cloud connectivity. So some of the classic things like express routes for low latency connection, etc. And this is just one illustration where they're continuing to expand the connectivity options. So Azure Space was launched around 2020. This particular feature, Azure Orbital Cloud Access, is really device-driven, where it's intended to provide a low latency, relatively low latency, low hop connectivity through to Azure, but using satellite technology. So some of the changes there, thank you, is this particular update is intended. We're jumping around on slides, Luke. Can I have the previous one back, please? Thank you. Cool. So this particular update is intended really for remote connectivity. So where there's low to no connectivity via conventional means, Orbital Cloud Access does work with cellular signals, so 4G, 5G, etc. So it can use them. It's obviously generally more cost efficient. But where there may be low connectivity or certainly none, then there's the SpaceX Starlink option. So really that's the anywhere in the world, any place, as long as you've got a connection through to the sky, then you can get connectivity. And the nice thing about this is that one hop as well. So you're not routing through lots of back-end services with lower latency. Obviously Starlink being lower in orbit, it reduces the millisecond hop as well. So really quite a cool thing if you do need to access cloud services. Not to forget, I suppose, that Microsoft offer these things because they're on the periphery somewhat of Azure. Thank you, Luke. On to the next subject. So this is new, something that's in preview, Microsoft DevBox. What is it? It's a way of creating, maintaining, and empowering development people to use dev workstations. So workstation class systems virtualized in the cloud for cloud access. So there's some benefits to this. Streamline is one thing. One of the challenges we have internally, and I'm sure all organizations do, is where you have some developers or a development team, a large development team. It can be challenging to react in a timely fashion to the tools they might need, the kit they might need, so that they can obviously develop agilely and quickly. The other side of it is the management side, the government side. What processes are there for allowing tools, for example, how quickly can you deploy tools, how you secure dev environments, because dev environments sometimes are not the most secure because of the need to work quickly. So all of these challenges, DevBox is there to address these. It allows, I suppose, two pools of people, somebody to manage the infrastructure and the governance side, so images can be created, network segmentation can be implemented, Azure policies can be implemented, so that general operational governance that you'd have of your Azure estate anyway is there. But what it allows is then management teams, development teams, infrastructure teams to go into the next layer down or up and to share these dev box pools that have been created with their teams. The nice thing is it quickly integrates into AD, so you can use AD groups, kind of a classic method for controlling this. You can scale resources up and down as you would expect to in the cloud. And it's got a wide dev, they run on Windows devices, so anything, obviously there's a large breadth of development tools there. Next slide, please, Luke. The other cool thing is because it's in Azure World, it integrates with the Azure security. So you have Intune, you have zero-day patches, it can be managed. So this really is the dev box as well, is obviously a virtual presentation, classic VDI of workstations, but tightly integrated to more, not a managed service, but to make it easier to deploy these things and to manage them for all layers of people who will be using this service. Next slide, please, Luke. Final update, more of a techie one really, and a reminder. Azure World is constantly changing, we know that. One of the classic things to host in Azure is an app service. So there's app service plans, which are compute pools to run applications on. App services change occasionally. Microsoft released a V3 app service some time ago. And what that offered really is more oomph for your pound. So you can see on the pricing here, if you had a P2 V2 instance with 2 cores, 7 gig of memory, 250 gig of storage, it would have cost you £339 per month. If you look at the P1 V3 plan, 2 cores, 8 gig of memory, 250 gig of storage, newer infrastructure at the back end for £226 a month. So instantly a cost saving. Also, V3 supports the reserved instances. If you know you're going to be using this service for 1 or 3 years, then you can buy into that and get greatly reduced costs. So you could potentially have gone from £339 a month to 236. Sorry. Illustrative of this though is V3 in an app service environment didn't support DNS suffixes. So that's probably one of the core things. So what Azure is good at, if you go into your Azure Advisor, and if you're using V2 app service plans, the advisor would recognize that and probably recommend there's V3 now looking to upgrade, and it's going to give you more performance and it's going to lower your costs. So that's in the Azure Advisor. And there's quite well tried upgrade routes. Sometimes though, in the nuance of things, for this, for example, app service plan V3, it's only just been released, the functionality for domain suffixes to be used. So you might have looked at this 6 months ago and discounted it because of V3 didn't quite give you what you needed. So a reminder to the details there, that might have unlocked the ability to use the V3 plan now, some months later. And obviously the cost savings are there. So yeah, small update, but relevant, but sometimes the small updates can still have impact on your existing usage and cost. That was everything for me. Thank you, Lou.
Fantastic, Steve. And the world of Microsoft licensing and Microsoft pricing is a tough beast to get your head around at the best of times. And they love to change it probably every 6 months, just completely rip up the old 156-page textbook and start again with some new, even more confusing model. So yeah, we're here to help. If we're putting my sales hat on, we're here to help if there's any guidance or consultancy we can offer to assess the best way to get the most out of your tech at the most efficient rates. So thank you very much, Steve. And next up on the list, again, just slightly ahead of time, but around the Power Platform, I'll be handing over to Ole. I believe he's going to be doing a live demo. So over to you, Ole.
Brilliant, thanks, Luke. Yeah, no doubt I might eat up some of that time, but hopefully not too much. And I'll try and keep to my my allotted times. Yeah. So yeah, thanks very much for joining, everyone. What's new with Power Platform? So one of the interesting things that's happening at the moment is we've literally just finished the first ever Power Platform conference which was in Orlando, Florida, and this was, I guess, the first time that we've had a dedicated Power Platform conference, which is really, really good. There was loads and loads of speakers, and about 3,500 attendees, which was absolutely amazing. So it was so good and so well received that they've already issued the new the new conference for next year, which is really, really cool. So it's going to be in Vegas next year. So if I'm on my best behavior, I think I'm going to be able to shoot across to that one, which would be absolutely amazing. But there's a couple of key takeaways that happened within the conference and some of the announcements that were happening online. So the first thing to run through is something called Matchmaker Virtual Agent. So this is very much for the users and the makers of PowerApps. Now, if you've got a big team of citizen developers or people that are using PowerApps, what they've got is a virtual agent that allows you to ask some deeper questions around some functions that you might be struggling with, which is great. That's typical virtual agent, no problem. But what it will actually do is, whilst it's asking you all of these questions, it's working out what type of specialism is needed, and then actually suggest not only community support areas to look for yourself, but also who in the business has actually got those skills or has created those apps with that functionality before, and can direct you straight to teams and actually have a chat with that person in your company. So if you're a big enterprise organization, using the Power Platform and virtual agents to be able to actually direct you to the right makers that said, oh yeah, I created an app that with that same feature and functionality not that long ago, so yeah, I can help you out, and away you go. So it's just being able to facilitate and communicate with the greater team, whether that be finding resources online or actually speaking to some guys. So that for me was a really cool, quirky little thing to help app makers get a head start and collaborate with each other. So that was really, really good. The other one, for you guys that have attended the Ask the Experts last time, I did touch on the Centre of Excellence Starter Kit. So what they've actually done now, it's in preview, but they are now looking at rolling out the Power Platform Automation Centre of Excellence Toolkit, Starter Kit, sorry. So this will be very much focused on, obviously, Power Automate, but the desktop and cloud RPA elements. So anybody that's got existing advanced automation using RPA and those tools, there is going to be a set of governance and a set of applications to allow you guys to manage that and hopefully roll that out and govern that within your center of excellence, within your system developers. So really, really promising stuff. I think it's great to see. As soon as the preview becomes a general availability, I'll probably be able to give you guys a demonstration about exactly what's in there and how best Crimson would be advising you guys to use that. But that's one coming down the line. So that was a really good announcement. The other one, for anybody that is looking to become a little bit more of an app maker or get a good understanding of PowerApps, they've created a new initiative called Power Up. Now, this is something you can sign up for. It's like a free engagement where you become a part of a team, and they've got a dedicated curriculum of getting somebody that isn't technical but potentially has industry expertise to actually come onto the Power Platform and learn how to build apps and how to play with the components of the Power Platform, and you get sort of certifications and you get sort of guided learning all the way through. So again, if you jump onto powerup@microsoft.com, then you'll be able to actually then join the program and they review applications, and if you're successful, then you can jump onto the free program and learn some Power Platform stuff. So again, if you guys are starting off on your Power Apps journey or Power Platform journey, definitely one to have a look at to see if you want to accelerate your learning, guided through Microsoft. So the other elements that I want to talk to you about, one of them is called cards. So this is PowerApps cards. It is in preview, but it's a part of, will be a part of the PowerApps framework. Now, what is cards? So cards is kind of like a micro app. It's a smaller app that could be built very, very quickly, but it's based on the card framework within Microsoft that allows you to share small elements of application and the data that's held in that application through different means. So it's exactly the same way of creating a Power App. You can just create a card, and I've Blue Petered one last night, which is a job card, and it's effectively same sort of thing. You've got a canvas, you've got all of your displays, your inputs, your layouts to choose from. I've simply just put a text box in there that just it says explain what the category of a complaint is, and click a button and it comes up on the label on top. So something just to prove the functionality. So how that looks, if I was to play this, would literally be a small little app that I say, what's the new complaint? Broken boiler, and say complaint, and it's a new complaint, broken boiler. It's a very simple application, but as you can imagine, the world is your oyster with cards. You can connect to Dataverse if you've got some data. You can connect to all sorts of connectors that you would have within the Power Platform. But the really cool thing about this is, if I was to then use this in a Teams scenario, I could actually send this, so I could copy this card, and then if I was talking to, conveniently, Adam, I could actually paste that into my conversation, and what that would do is it's going to come up with, and I'll show it in the history, the application here, where we could actually use the application, so the Power App Canvas app that I've created, I could use that in the conversation that we're having, and then Adam can go ahead and complete some functionality, look at some data, share some data, update things, and it's just a way of sharing more information and more data through Power Apps, but rather than having to create a massive Power application, a Canvas app, and publish that and then share that and control that, what we can do here is very, very quickly, using cards, get that functionality out so people can use it and interact with the data. So really cool thing coming from Microsoft. The dates and when it's going to become general available, I'm not sure. I'd imagine towards the end of this year, possibly next year, but we'll just wait and see. Okay, so the other element to very, very quickly look at is the Creator Kit. So again, these budding citizen developers that are looking to get into the Power Platform and creating things, we've got the Creator Kit, which is something you can download. And what that simply contains is a load of Fluent UI components and controls. So these components and controls are based on the Fluent UI framework. If you guys know what that is, it's just a way of having platform agnostic components to be able to share within, whether it's an Android app, whether it's a Canvas app, whether it's anything, you can literally have these components, and it's a very similar experience, and it's also just accelerates the way that you can create really good UI looking applications. And so what they've done, if you download that, what you'll see is when you get to your environment, you'll have a couple of things that come on. You have a couple of templates, but you have some reference canvases that you can have a look at. So I'm going to just jump onto one of to the creator reference application, and what it will show you is all of the controls that you now have available to select from when you're building your Canvas apps. One of the cool ones is around the navigation, some of the breadcrumbs. So what you can see here is they give you a bit of a narrative of what that control is and some best practices. So it's saying don't use these breadcrumbs as the primary way to navigate through the app. You would probably want to find something slightly more structured. But what you can see here is the usage of it. It gives you a bit of an example. You can specify the widths, and you can specify the number of items. So actually, we only want 2 showing at the same time. and it will show you how it looks and feels. Really, really good is the app is there, but then if you click on the code, that behind the scenes is the PowerFX code to replicate that element. So again, not only are they giving you the access to the control, they're also suggesting the PowerFX code that can be used for that to function correctly. So really, really good. There's loads and loads of UI controls, some pickers which are really cool, where for example you've got custom style pickers. So if you wanted to round the tags, searching for a color, let's go green, it's going to come up with light green, and it shows you the functionality. And again, brilliant. Let's go ahead and use that PowerFX code in your Canvas app to go ahead and do that. So some really, really cool stuff when it comes to Fluent UI components. What also is a part of the Creator Kit is the theming. So again, with the Canvas app and with building those themes, it may be that it is actually quite hard and quite a monotonous task to go ahead and change individually all of these, the look and feels, the color coordination of all of these elements within a Power App. Now, set up in the correct way, what you can do is reference a set of color codes and color themes throughout your whole app, and actually then pull it through as a set of variables. So what this one does is it allows you, say for example, if we, rather than a light app, I want a sort of a dark mode app. So what I'm going to go ahead and do is select the color, and I'm gonna switch it around, and we're going to go really dark. And what you can also see is, now if I was just to do that, that's a bit of a nightmare. The colors are all a bit, the text you can't really read. And what you can see is it's got an accessibility checker. So it says your color palette has errors and you need a minimum contrast of 4.5. So I know that I've got to sort this out. So actually the text color, let's switch that back to white. And then maybe the primary color, we push that up so that we can get into the 4.5 region. And there you go, brilliant. Okay, so the accessibility is there. I've got my dark mode. I could go ahead and export that theme, and it gives me the palette that you need when you're initiating your app and you're selecting your theme variables. You can use those, and as long as it's referenced in all of your components you're creating, you change it once, you apply that theme, everything changes and you're good to go. So some really, really, really powerful stuff that's coming along the lines with the Power Platform, Canvas apps and UI controls. So I know I've got on a little bit too much, but yeah, hopefully that was useful, and thank you very much.
Well, you may have gone over a little bit too much. However, we're still a minute short of time. So, but there was so much you covered there, Ollie. That was amazing. But I think that just shows in tandem with how much Microsoft are moving, particularly around the Power Platform at the moment. There's so much. There was noise about it. And then there's been investment, and here's the stuff like and you just jumping through there with some of the stuff that's in release. The only question that that I had, and as a non-technical guy, but I had just that Creator Kit, and whether those components can be used in the a model-driven app as well.
Oh yeah, okay, yeah, that's quite a good question actually. Yeah, so in this context, I was showing you through seeing these components and what they look like in a Canvas app. The really cool thing about Fluent UI controls is that you can use these in a model-driven app as well. So again, through the Maker experience, if you're on a model-driven app, you just select the controls and you can add that onto your form as well. So yeah.
Cool. And then straight over to model-driven apps and some collaboration around PowerApps. I'm going to be handing over to Kieran too.
Good morning, everybody. Thanks, Luke, and thanks, everyone. So, as Luke says, I'm Kieran Toon. I lead the Modern Workplace practice at Crimson, and Modern Workplace is all about using the components, the modules of Microsoft 365, such as SharePoint, Teams, and then building on top of them with things like Power Apps, like Ollie's just shown, but also Power Automate to create custom solutions to improve productivity really in the workplace. That's our mantra, that's our mission in life. And that might mean simply getting you onto Microsoft 365 in the first place through migrating your files from network shares into a really structured approach in SharePoint Online combined with Teams, or it might be something a little bit more complex using PowerApps and Power Automate to create a business app that improves your productivity, mimicking a business workflow process. And we're going to look at some of those things now. So, Luke, if we look at the next slide, you might well remember from the last session, the last episode of Meet the Experts, my colleague Caroline came online and talked about avoiding Teams proliferation. So we have an app, and there's a picture of it on screen there, to allow people to request a team. So that's a Canvas app, and that behind the scenes captures the information, stores it in a SharePoint list, and then allows you to get approval for that request and automatically creates the team and SharePoint site behind the scenes. So if we go on to the next slide, I just want to cover a few other Canvas apps that we've written in the past. Crimson have been writing apps with Power Platform pretty much since Power Platform came out about 5 years ago or so. So just on screen here are some examples of Canvas apps that we've written. The first one there that came up was a service catalog app used to pick or select different computer items that your staff might need and request those. We've got a voids checklist for housing associations. And then moving on, the staff expense claim app, there's a YouTube video of how we built that, which shows also the integration. I think the next slide even shows the integration there with a camera on a phone. We built that about 4 or 5 years ago. Thank you very much, Luke. And then just a few more examples as well. The seat allocation app, of course, that we built before COVID. So some of our clients use that now. So to help you book your seats in the office, some of my colleagues there on screen. And then finally, a few slightly different apps. So this is a Canvas app, but using Dataverse behind the scenes. The previous apps I've showed you have been using SharePoint lists behind the scenes. And that's great because some of our clients, their licenses that they have mean that with a SharePoint list, it's free for them to build Canvas apps. But also if you've got Dynamics, maybe you can use Dataverse as well behind the scenes. Lovely. And one final funny app that we built was a Merry Christmas app, and it's not too far away, but that's just a bit of fun. So you can use Canvas apps in all sorts of different ways. But the thing that all of these have in common is that those apps were all built by one developer at any one time. But because PowerApps is now becoming increasingly more capable and people realize the power it can give, the apps that we're building are increasingly complex. There's a greater number of screens, there's enhanced logic behind the scenes, and Ollie's just shown us there some of the great capabilities that are coming along with better UI components, etc. So with all of this, we've got bigger teams wanting to do more, but if you can only ever have one developer writing one app at the same time, that's going to be a little bit limiting. Fortunately, Microsoft have realized this, and they've added, about a year ago, they added an experimental feature into PowerApps that they're now pushing through as a real feature through the Wave release that's coming along in a few months' time. So this is going to give us better governance and control because what it does, it allows more than one developer to work on the same app at the same time. And in order to make that work, you have to connect your Power Apps code into a source control environment such as Git, or using maybe DevOps as well. So what I'm going to do is go through a few screens just to show you how you can do that, and then hopefully you've got enough time just for a quick live demo to show you in real life. But what we're trying to do here is pick up some of the practices that developers have been using in the .NET environment and other code platforms and bring that to this sort of low code environment of Power Platform. So as I said, it's helping us to work faster and also increases that security and code management because the code is in a source control environment such as Git. Okay, moving on. So the day-to-day advantages that we get from this are because the code is in Git, we can write, and we're using, in our example, we're going to be using DevOps and Git within DevOps. We can write comments against your commits. So whenever you make a change to your Power App, you commit it, and to do that, you can see the highlighted recycle button there. So that's a key point that I'll make in a moment. So saving or pressing that recycle button commits your change to the source control environment, and we can write comments against those commits as well to indicate what we've changed, so we can go back and see what's happened. We can also assign tasks to comments as well. In DevOps, you've got the ability to write user stories and tasks, and you can assign those tasks to comments that you write. And crucially, you can see the code behind the scenes. Ollie showed us just a moment ago that with the Power Platform, with those Fluent UI code components, it's really quite important to be able to see the code as well as the front end part as a developer. You might want to tweak something, maybe the color of something, and by seeing the code files, you can go and tweak those elements as well for that custom capability. And finally, you can compare the code between different versions, which is a great facility to see what's changed between one version and another for a screen UI or some logic. So the bits that have just flashed up on screen there previously on the previous slide, thanks Luke, was the fact that that recycle button is the commit, which you must press in order to make your change appear for other developers. It's that button that pushes the change into source control, and you must do that before you then publish it. So the two actions are quite separate, and I would always do them in that order. You might not want to publish immediately after doing a commit, but you must certainly do the commit first. And also watch out for not being able to revert back to several older versions using DevOps or Git. At this point in time, it is an experimental feature, but it's rolling out in the Wave release as a fully fledged version. And I think Microsoft have got some changes that I'll be making to the way in which it works with Git. So hopefully that reversion back to previous versions of your app will work much better. But we've certainly found ourselves that there are some problems. So if we quickly go through the screens on how to make this work. So there's plenty of articles. If you click on the settings in your Power App, right at the top there highlighted, you will bring up the dialog box, and on the left hand side, upcoming features, you can see experimental features, and you want to scroll down to show the Git version control setting. That then shows Git version control on the left hand side of the dialog box. And then on the next screen, we'll see the options available, and you simply paste in to the Git repository URL field the Git DevOps area that you've created, and finally give it the branch and directory name as well. Okay, so I think the next slide probably just talks through the fact that once you're connected to Git, all the changes are now stored there. They're also stored in PowerApps, but do not use PowerApps to restore a previous version. That won't work. Git won't be aware of the previous code that you've restored if you go and do it this way. So just be aware of that. Use the Git tools instead. So we're going to do a very quick demo. I've got my colleague Tom on the call as well. I'm just going to show you the commits screen. So here you can see in DevOps all the different commits that I've made to a little app that I've got on screen, which I'll bring up now. This is what it looks like at the moment. You can see that we've got the Crimson logo at the top. This is a simple demo that we built for logging whether or not people have found rats or not in shops. So let's do that. But you can see here the contrast of some of these buttons isn't great. So behind the scenes, Tom is going to make some changes, and I'm going to make a change at the same time. I'm going to add an image, and I think Tom, you're going to go and change some of the buttons on the other screens, like this one here, to make that red, and the complete screen as well. But so we're going to do this in tandem. I'm going to insert an image, put that over in the corner, simple change, and I'm going to choose that there, little rat image there. Great. Now, remember I said we must press the commit changes, so I'm going to click that. And if I go and have a look at the same time, maybe, let me just click that again. So Tom, I don't know if you're able to make the change as well to the complete screen for the button. We should see that come through in a moment. There we go. Oops, let me do that again. There we go. We can see that Tom's made that similar change, and now I can publish. That's made the change as well on his screens. We can publish, and often it takes a while to review and update the screen. But hopefully, if we go to add an inspection, let's just try that once more. Refresh. Let's just try it. Submit. Okay, so for some reason the publish isn't picking up the change. Let me just try once more. But you can see the change came through in the Power App itself, in the UI here. So let me just try that once more. Refresh, hit publish.
And I think we'll let you off because
Yeah.
a demo's hard enough at the best of times, but dual development in a live demo is challenging.
Yeah, no problem. All right. Let's have a. There we go. That's come through.
It's come through.
Thanks. Over to you, Luke.
Fair play, Kieran. I do have one question though. I'm curious around that because we took actually a question that one of my customers asked. Because we're just about to, I understand that we're just about to use that capability of dual development on one of their projects upcoming. But what happens if more than one developer changes the same component at the same time? What happens?
Yeah, that's a really good question. Thanks, Luke. So at the moment with this experimental feature, if Tom and I were in the same screen at the same time, and for example, I also changed that submit button to a different color, and Tom did the same, the person that changed it most recently, that their change would win. So it's whatever the most recent change is. So I think if you're going to go down this route of having more than one developer in the same app at the same time, stick to different screens, allocate your development work accordingly so that one person is responsible for one screen and other developers are responsible for different screens to keep that that work quite separate.
Fantastic. Thank you, Kieran. And if there is any other questions, feel free to, as a reminder, feel free to add them in the comments chat. Thank you, Rob, for your question. Rob Fletcher, can Omnichannel fire up a web RTC Teams call from the customer to the agent? I believe it's been answered in the chat channel already. However, if there's any other further information or just a recap of that question and answer, Ollie or Adam, probably, if you'd like to just recap.
Yeah, Ollie, do you want to talk about the channel integration framework and how that works?
Yeah, no, absolutely. So yeah, it was a good question, and there is quite a lot that the Omnichannel allows you to do. There are a few suppliers out there that have worked with this already, but effectively the channel integration framework is sort of the mode in which you can integrate additional channels into the omni-channel sort of management area, and being able to dish that out to different agents. So yeah, I've not actually seen it happen with WebRTC. So I know obviously you can initiate the call from the customer's browser, and then it can actually start a Teams, add them to a Teams meeting. I think the way that we would probably recommend doing it would be using WebRTC and the available APIs out the channel integration framework to initiate that phone call and get that scheduled by an agent, and then an agent will be able to pick up through Teams. So yeah, it's definitely possible.
Fantastic. I think Rob would like to come to Vegas with you as well next year, Ollie. I think we all would. Just book us all in. Guy Ellis, Guy has asked a good question as well. Thank you, Guy. Do you have more on managing the proliferation of team sites, please? I know we touched on proliferation last week, but around teams. Probably over to you, Kieran.
Yeah, absolutely. So it's something that often crops up in our initial engagements with customers. One of the first things that we see is customers, unbeknownst to them, have hundreds of different SharePoint sites and teams. One of the first things that we try and do is to try and lock that proliferation down, but at the same time give users an access route to request teams. So the app that we've built allows people to request those team sites in a very structured way, just fill out a few questions, and those questions and the app uses SharePoint lists to store the data in the back end. So often for our customers with the licenses that they have, it's free. They don't need to purchase any extra licenses. And the request can then be approved by somebody in IT or their line manager. And on the approval of the request, the team and the SharePoint site get automatically generated based upon a custom template. So yeah, that's something that we really like to help out with. So do get in touch, and we can take you through what we can do for you there.
And then probably our final question of today, Rob, again, thank you. Of course, Dynamics 365 Wave 2 is rolling out from midnight tonight. I think there's the UK data centers that's still being pushed tonight. Any final word on that from a Crimson point of view? Ollie, I know you've been heavily involved around this, so appreciate your comments.
Yeah, sure. So yeah, it's both D365 and the Power Platform elements are going through. So I would remind your users, if you guys are the admins, that by default the advanced find, the legacy advanced find is not going to be there anymore. And also when you're looking at your activities, the activity list that you'll see again will only be the ones specifically called out in your apps. So if you've got a custom app and you've only got a select number of activities, and some people are viewing more activities than what they've got access to create, they will all of a sudden they'll disappear. So a couple of those elements just remind the users that it might they might see some or might see things that are missing, but they're not. It's by design. So yeah, give that a nudge.
Yeah, brilliant. And Emily's just shared on the chat a blog around that. I believe the blog also has a couple of links to a couple of videos that Crimson have already done around both the Wave 2 release for Dynamics, but also for our platform as well. So yeah, and Ollie, I believe you're visible in both of those sessions. So fantastic. Just sharing on screen at the moment is a reminder. I'm sure you're all following us on LinkedIn already to get all of these updates. But really appreciate if everybody could complete the survey and also secure a season ticket. Sounds a little bit premium, so to speak, but really simply all that is just signing up to the whole package of events, and this is purely around this Ask the Experts bi-monthly webinar, which is 1 hour every other month. That's all from us today, but thank you very much for joining again. This video will be on YouTube, and appreciate any feedback, but also to share the video with your colleagues and get them to sign up for the next one. Thank you all. and speak soon.